Sup fellas, this is Metaferno, and today I'm doing my tutorial video that some of you were asking for the Tomodachi life characters. And I may have bitten off a little bit more than I could chew with this video, if you couldn't tell by it taking a couple more weeks than I was hoping it for. I have been trying to upload every Friday, but this video has taken a lot longer than I first thought it would, because some people wanted Vector and stuff, so I decided I was going to do it by teams, but then I was already doing Team Sonic and Team Rose. So I just added Team Chaotix on top of that, and it got a little out of hand and took a lot longer than I was expecting. So going forward for these tutorials and stuff on how to make these Miis, I'm probably going to be doing 2 to 1 team, probably 1 team a video, just so I can make them more consistently. I'm not sure how good I am at doing tutorials. I'm going to try my best, and if you've seen by the length of this video, it's really long, and it's mostly because I'm going to have the whole entire process of me drawing them and all that in the video, and I'm going to pop in every now and then and give pointers and all that. But I'm not going to be talking the whole time the drawing is happening, but I wanted to leave the drawing in there so you guys could see it. And I don't know if that's going to take too long or if it will be interesting. So if you guys want to just kind of like fast forward and go to specific characters and stuff you want in the video, I kind of recommend that. I'll probably be putting a tiny red here in the bottom of the corner for whenever I'm talking, just so you know if you need to stop there. If not, and you want to watch the whole drawing process, go ahead, either way. But I'll be doing all these characters, and I'm going to have at least times on them, if not try and timestamp the video. So if you want to go to a specific character to see how they made or not. So this is all the times. This is the entire cast, all 9 of these characters. So it's going to be a bit of a long one, but yeah. So if you ever want to go to a specific character, there's a times. Maybe I'll have it timestamped if I figure that out. But yeah, sorry this is a little bit of a whole thing, this video. But I hope this is helpful to some people. I can't promise my giving out tutorials is great, but I'm going to try. I will say the one thing is that I am going to be drawing, and I filmed these in handheld mode. And that led to some wackiness because I was doing it with like the Switch clipping system. So if the footage also for these skips randomly, that's why. Sorry about that. It's the only way I could figure out how to do it in a short amount of time and all that. And it may have turned out a bit whack, but at least it gets the point across. And I'll be starting from Sonic, going to, Team Rose and then Team Chaotix last and all that. And I can't promise these are going to look exactly like the ones I did because I'm not good enough at this drawing on this thing in general to make it like exact, but I'll give you the process I use to make mine and do a side-by-side comparison and try and help make something that's really close. Some of them are closer than others and all that, but I'm going to try my best to do this. And the thing is that I am drawing in these, and I know not everybody can draw, but I'm trying to leave the whole drawing in so you could watch and maybe do some things. And if not, I do highly recommend using some of the tools that the drawing app gives you, like the shapes and the smoothing tool and the straight tool and all that. I think they can be really useful because especially the smoothing tool, I highly recommend using that because it will make your lines like smooth out themselves and all that. And that would be really useful. Straight tool for straight lines, and I think that you should try those out if you need to. If not, I'm going to have an example of using some shapes to get the basic look of the character across, and then you can use like the pen and stuff to maybe touch it up a little bit. I don't know. I think a lot of the tools can help, especially smoothing and the outlining tool. Outlining will be really helpful, but I recommend you use all the tools at your disposal, and I'm sorry that I mostly just used drawing in this whole process. That was kind of my bad. I guess I should have showed more ways of doing it. But I have this little example here of how I did a quick, like, vague shape of Sonic that then you could touch up into, actual Sonic, hopefully. And also, I do highly recommend that you get a pen or a stylus kind of thing. I mean, I'm just using one of these cheap, like, iPhone ones that you can probably get in a dollar store or Walmart or something. I mean, you can use your hand too, but I feel like having the pen will definitely help you. But yeah, use what you have at your disposal, and that's all I can say for that. Because I don't think you need any of the fancy ones. I'm just using a cheap one myself. And like I said here, this is me doing shapes and stuff. You can see it's kind of rough, and I got some wrong colors. But it kind of shows off the concept of what I was saying with making it kind of look like Sonic. Like, it's really rough, don't get me wrong. But I forgot to take the pen and like touch it up to make it look more like Sonic, but you can kind of see the vision, right? You know? And I think for some people, maybe this would just help get it started. I'm going to be doing it from like kind of like scratch and stuff, but yeah, this is my little quick use the shape tools and all that. But like I said before, I don't do this anymore in this whole video, which is my bad still. So I'm going to be, you know, just drawing normally. And also these are the, this is the list, and we're making all these Miis. The hair and everything will be specific to the Mii after I do them, but all the characters have this eye and this nose, and you will always be stretching the eyes out all the way up and down. Then you can make them bigger and smaller depending, but that will be at the end. I usually recommend not starting with getting the face all done. You can do the eyes, like I said, the nose, and a mouth of your choice, but after you draw is when you'll adjust everything to fit, because I think trying to make it fit before you draw just makes it way too weird. So that's what I did. Anyways, let's hope this goes well, starting with Sonic. So with Sonic, this is how the Mii's face should look when you start, and if you see I messed up the recording of me starting the line art, but I always recommend kind of sketching out the line art only on one side of the face. I think works more efficiently, and then splitting it down the middle like I am here, and then just doing one side of the head at a time, so then you can grab it later and flip it. So right here I'm just, you know, like I said, I'm just getting the one side painted to start this off and all that. But with Sonic, you can see he starts a little messy, and I missed some things at the start. But I do highly recommend, if you start with Sonic, it becomes way easier once you have a character to start with. And you can see here I have to go back and forth and touch up stuff, and I do recommend that. And just know, the way I had to kind of accept, it's never going to look perfect, and I just kind of accepted that, but it kind of gives them a nice wholesome like weirdness to them. And you can see here I'm starting to draw a triangle within the triangle of the ear, but this is definitely one of those things you could use the shape tool to do. I just like mine having the more hand-drawn or rounded off aesthetic. And then here, the muzzle of Sonic, it kind of has the swoosh. So I kind of had to go back and touch up the swoosh and stuff. And then the biggest thing I will say with these is bold like outlines in solid big colors. It was my main thing with the look. So like everything's outlined with a dark version of the color and all that. And then light shading and lighting on all the characters, I think helps them pop a little bit. But like not too much. Kind of makes them look like Mii's in a way. Like here, you can see this is me doing my little bit of lighting. I just take the smallest brush and run it to one point to the other of the outline, and then I'll use the paint bucket to fill it with a lighter color later. And I think it works pretty well, and I do the same thing for the shading. Like here, you can see I just connect the two lines, and then I just darken it up. You don't got to do all the lighting, I think, if you don't want to. I just think it makes it pop a little. And the other thing you probably don't have to do is I'll sometimes darken the outline too of the character to make it with the shading, so it pops even more. And then sometimes, like you see there, you're going to have to go in and adjust little things with the tiny pen and all that. Make it look nice and all. And right here is what I was talking about with the outline tool. This is the only time I show it off. But this is so useful if you're doing the outlines and stuff. To just run this across the character to make the outline of them look better. I think it's a really handy tool, and if you're not the biggest on drawing, I think this can help out a lot. Even though I do go back here, as you see, and I just add little touch-ups everywhere. Just a personal thing to make it look a little more sharp or pop a little more. And then I'll always do that where I take the main color to go on the outlines that are more on the inside and just kind of sharpen them up. I think it looks better that way. And here is just a little more shading to make the character pop a little more. Again, you don't gotta necessarily doing all this shading, even though I know it's already kind of minimal. I just think it helps with Sonic's spines to look a little better. And here's when I was talking about you draw one side of the head, and then you use this tool to lasso it and grab it and flip it. This saves so much time, and I would never be able to draw so accurately on both sides. I just think it makes the character look better, staring straight on and all that. So I highly recommend using that for a lot of things. Even little mistakes on one side you can fix by grabbing it and flipping it over. It's very useful. And as you see here, I kind of noticed that the top spine, it looks a little weird, so I just recommend going in with the eraser and, touching up things. Always, room for little improvements here and there, in my opinion. And there's just a ton of little touch-ups here and there, like the little line right in between his eyes, I think helps it pop a little more. But yeah, that's the Sonic one overall. And here I'll show you how I do their faces. Like I said, afterwards you adjust everything. So I always use this nose and eyes for everybody. And it's kind of just fitting them to the face that you draw. I think makes it look better overall. But yeah, this is my recreation of the Sonic me. At the end of this whole process, you'll see it. It's not exact, but yeah. And this is me doing the outfits. And the outfits are simpler because here I show you can use the tools a lot. Like the circle for his chest, and then using the big drawing square to do his gloves. It's actually really easy overall to do the bodies on some of these characters. Some of them are way harder, but Sonic's is nice and simple. Then on his back spikes and tail, I kind of just go for like a shape, that kind of feels right. But you can kind of do whatever you want here. And all the colors on the character can kind of be up to your own interpretation of what you want them to be. If you could tell, I don't always have all the blues and all the colors matching, but as close as I can. And then pants for Sonic is the easiest, just blue, and then I just add a little white. And then I just recommend using any red sneakers you can find and all that. I still haven't found my favorite kind of pair to use with him, but I just use red shoes for Sonic, and I think it works out a lot. Well, there's the Sonic on the top. You can see my original, and also in the middle, and on the bottom corner is the brand new one. You can see they're not exact, but they both give the vibe of Sonic, and you can kind of use both as a reference, or just get an actual picture of Sonic for yours. Then here I have his personality type and height, if you cared about that, or you can do your own thing with those two. And that was Sonic. And again, I'm sorry if this tutorial kind of sucks or is a little messy, but like I mentioned, I'm going to use Sonic as a base for most of these Miis, and sometimes I'll use others, and I know that's kind of messy. I'm sorry I didn't start them all from scratch. I feel like I should have done that, but it didn't really occur to me. So it might be a little weird to start Tails if you don't already have the Sonic, but maybe go check what I did at the beginning of Sonic's if not. It mainly helps with the muzzle placement and everything, and having like the eyes and stuff already kind of ready. But like here you see, Tails is very different from Sonic, and I have to like start deleting a lot of stuff off of him and editing it, like giving him the slit in between his eyes, or getting it so he has his bigger ears and stuff is one of the main things. But since they're so different, you can do like me, start with Sonic, or if you're starting with Tails, I guess you kind of gotta look at this image. It's a little whack the way it starts, if you could already tell. The big part of Tails that is different for sure besides the big ears is his little fur tufts on the side. As you can see, I usually do it pretty messy, then I just go in with the eraser and sharpen everything. I kind of recommend that to start off. And then like with Sonic, if you notice, I just use the darker color of the same color for the outline. Same goes with Tails here. Pretty simple, I hope. Sorry if it's a little rough on the tutorial part. And then Tails' eyes are a lot simpler than Sonic's, so they usually turn out a little easier in my opinion. A lot less angular and sharp, more round and soft, and I don't know, I think they're a little easier to do in my opinion. But then I just quickly outline, all the tails, and then you can start doing little details and stuff and clean up. Then you can see here, I was sharpening up the outline a little bit to start the shading. And again, like with the Sonic, you take the littlest one, and it's a little more zoomed in here, and you just kind of hook it to the two sides and then paint bucket, and then touch up whatever you need. Again, I think it helps it pop. It might not be necessary. I don't think the one I put around his eye is necessary. I kind of added it on this one. I don't even think I have it on the original. I don't remember. But that one might not be fully necessary. But yeah, and also when you grab and flip this one, if you notice with the characters that have the hair in the middle, you have to grab and flip it first and set it up. And then I draw the hair on top. Because if you flip it, it's going to be a huge mess. So here is me trying to do Tails' little free hairpiece thing. And you can see it's just a lot of after getting the initial shape, little touch-ups and all that to make it look a little nicer and clean. Making the outlines bigger and all that is a big part in making it, I think, a little nicer. And I think the part that will make it come out the best is when you start shading it. I usually just add these little bits on the top, but the part that will make it look really clean and actually look like his little hair does is when you add drop shadows, in my opinion. And if you do any shading, I highly recommend this one because it makes the people with the hair tufts look a lot better. It makes it pop a little more like it's a 3D effect, Even though I know it's just a simple drawing. But and this is also what I was talking about darkening the outlines. I think here is really, it helps with the look. In my opinion, I think that's the best thing to do with the hair tufts, in my opinion. It's one bit of shading I highly recommend to do if you do any. But that was the Tails drawing, and then over here I used just the short hair for Tails. And the yellow never matches, but I just use yellow on yellow for his, skin and hair color. And I just use a short hair. But yeah, that's Tails' face paint and stuff, if that makes any sense, I hope. And then, like with Sonic, his feet, or the pants option, is really simple. It's just like Sonic's, but yellow. A lot of the guys have the same concept for the legs, so not too difficult. As you can see, I have the first Tails' body here, and I do that with all of them so you can see both of them. But the body on Tails is a lot more complicated than Sonic's, because you can see how you start off with the shape tool to get it close, and then you gotta go add the hair tufts on top, kind of like his head. This one's a little messier, where I did it messier. You can do like I do here and sharpen it up if you want to. It's not super serious, I think, but this lasso tool is really essential with doing a lot of this. His arms are a little more complicated than the Sonic's because I did add a little black stripe, but again, it's nothing too complicated on the arms. The part that makes Tails' body a little harder overall is doing his tails compared to Sonic back spikes and tail, The double tail is a little more complicated. So here I would just recommend if you can get the basic shape, I guess. I don't know how to explain it. I just kind of go for a triple triangle on an oval that kind of bends, I guess. Then you can hear just adding a lot of little details and cleaning up the tip. Be all white, because I think it makes it look better. Then here you can see I'm adding a drop shadow under the tail, which again I think helps, but I don't even think I can't even remember sometimes if I do it on the originals or not, but shadow or not, I think, you know, the point still gets across. So it's kind of on your preference of what you want. And just the final little touch-ups. And that's the Tails overall, and here's all the references to it and his stuff if you want it and all. But yeah, he's a little more complicated than Sonic, but not by much. But that's how I did Tails. So starting with Knuckles, just like Tails, I use Sonic as starter, but Knuckles is way easier than both Sonic and Tails in my opinion. As long as you got that muzzle shape, and you kind of do that straight curve from the top of the head down, you can kind of follow the Mii's head. I think you can do Knuckles pretty well. As you can see here, the main thing is he has way sharper eyes than Sonic does. But I make them look a little more aggressive, and then it's bringing that curve all the way down to like the bottom and just filling it all in. And like here you can see I don't change the muzzle all too much, I just darken it up a bit because I kind of like that for Knuckles. And also if you notice on the little side visual, his face is really messed up because I left it as Sonic's, and this is what I mean by we'll, you know, fix it once I make Knuckles, we'll adjust his face to fit the face paint. Because I just think that works out a little easier. So then just like with the others, a lot of sharp, you know, angles, I guess, and stuff like that, and filling out the outlines and just touch up. Again, like I said, I feel like Knuckles is definitely the easiest out of these three, so it's a little harder to point out specifics. Because like here, it'd probably been better for me to use the outline tool, but I just kind of freehand everything because it's what I'm used to. But I recommend that you use that if you're making a Knuckles. And you can see here, after I'm cleaning up everything, Knuckles is almost pretty much done. It's just a little bit of shading touch-up, and then he's pretty much ready. And that's what I meant kind of by, he's definitely the most simple by far. But I think he turned out pretty nice overall. I didn't do as much shading on Knuckles 2 now that I'm looking at it, which you can do more or less if you want, but again, lasso tool, you know, whip it around and just bam. And that's what I meant by I think Knuckles is definitely the easiest one out of them all. And then Knuckles needs a lot of adjustment to his face if you couldn't tell. So, you know, take those same eyes, make them Knuckles' eye color, and then I shrink and lower them until they kind of fit. So that he looks a little, like, aggressive, I guess. But then it's just moving the nose to fit where it needs to and giving him a mouth. And, like, you can give him whatever mouth you want. I just kind of like giving him the blank expression, personally. Then I use this slightly longer hair. Because, you know, it kind of matches his dreads. And then I just make everything red. Which is pretty simple with Knuckles. So yeah, like I said, overall, I think Knuckles is the easiest out of the three and definitely the fastest for me to do. But I think he always turns out quite nice. Then again, on the pants, Knuckles is different with red with green, you know, cuffs on his pants. And that's literally the only difference with the Sonic and Tails one. Again, so it's super easy to do with how simple style I went for. Then his body is a little more difficult, but I would say it's even, like, easier than Sonic's. You kind of do his like half moon shape, And then again, I just grab and flip it. You can probably use some shapes for this too, or stamps, because I didn't think about it for, stamps and all. But later on, one of them could have probably helped. Like here, though, I just do the regular cuffs like I've done with everybody, just a little thicker maybe. But right here, like, if I would have used the lightning stamp, it might have helped, because I kind of went with a lightning shape. So you could maybe try that out, but I just kind of go with a little, like, zigzag thing to match his tail off to the side. And I'll do that with tails that are either too big or something, Then again, I added a drop shadow on this one. I don't think you necessarily have to. Just kind of follow the shape that you did before, I guess. And you can see I have a little difficulty with it, but again, pretty simple body overall. And here's all the knuckles, and I do think my original gives off a little more grumpy vibe, which I was going for originally, and the new one's a little more laid back. Whatever one you like more, you can choose. I think they turned out close, but that was Knuckles. So then next we got Amy, and Amy's a little more complicated than the rest of them so far. But if you started with Sonic, he is the best one to use as the base to start Amy, because they do got similar ears and muzzles and stuff. So I would highly recommend that. If not, then I guess maybe just see as I go, The thing that definitely starts with it is doing the same thing as Knuckles, is bringing one of those spikes downwards, And also you can see here my footage is a little messed up here. Sorry about that at the beginning. But the big one is, you can see here, I kind of just curved the ear a little more on Amy compared to Sonic. Just to give it a softer look, But yeah, so I adjust all that, and then, like I said with Knuckles, you just kind of round it off and bring it down to the end of her hair kind of thing. And just clean it up over time and all that. And then I start adding a headband on top actually here in a sec. I like to put this on right away so that when you do the hair piece after we copy and flip it, it's already up there and everything, and it will look nice. And here I'm mostly just touching things up and prepping stuff for the line art on it, or the lining. And like on the rest of them, I just use a darker shade of each color and stuff. You can see here I do extend the ear down so it kind of gives depth to where the headband is. I do think that helps out. And then I do have to touch up some details here and all that, but it's mostly outlining. And then I realized you kind of gotta do like this weird little thing right here that I did when you go over the muzzle to match what I did with the other me, kind of to have like the bangs in front, or the hair pieces. And then you can see here you gotta adjust the eyeball to give it all that. It's a little complicated, and I hope the drawing on screen is helping it out. And since Amy has eyelashes, you can see I didn't fully put the dark pink up, because I'm going to actually put black in there eventually. And then I just kind of slightly fixed the muzzle there. I kind of forgot to do it when I did it the first time. And it's just a lot of little touch-up. And then here's where I'm doing the eyeliner and stuff to start. And then I can do, the eyelashes off of that. And you can see it's a lot of adjustments and stuff. And you kind of maybe got to go in with the smallest pen and touch it up a bit. But it's kind of, going back and forth and just making sure it kind of rounds off nice on that little screen on the side. And again, more lining everything. And again, sorry for the footage clipping so much on this one. I thought I edited it out, but I guess I missed on this one, and that's my bad. And here is just what I meant by like going in with the little brush and touching up the eyeliner to make it kind of round off a little nicer and tie into the outlining of the eyes better. I think it helps with the look. And then I gotta do the lighting on Amy too before I do the eyelashes, I recommend. Because then you're gonna shade on the eyelashes kind of thing. It'll make more sense when I show it in a little bit. And again, a little shading right here in this little corner thing can kind of help with the look I was going for, but you don't gotta do that part. And here's what I meant by you do the eyelashes kind of thing. I kind of just do raw, just line forth and back kind of thing until I get it to a point where I like it, and then I fill it in. And then I would take the eraser and kind of clean up the ends of them to make them a little more sharp. And then, you know, you can shade it like everything else if you want to. Again, I think the shading helps make everything pop a little bit. And just a little extra lighting around the eyes too can help everything come together, I think. And again, here's where we're going to copy and flip it, and like I did on Tails, since Amy has the hair bangs thing, we put that on afterwards. I do have to fix the center here because it came out too sharp, and then this is what I was talking about when you can use the copy paste even on little things. Because here I just do one side and fix it, and then I'll just copy paste it and flip it to the other side. And I think that just helps so much for the speed and ease of things. And here's where I do Amy's hair bangs, which are a little more complicated than Tails, just by a little bit, because I tried to really match what I did on the first me with the longer bangs, because I think it looks really nice for Amy's. But overall, it's pretty much just like Tails, is fill it up. Then it's all that lighting and shadows, which I think really help the hair tuft or bangs to look really nice. And also again on Amy's it's a little more complicated because you got more colors going on, but you can see here I just darken everything behind the bangs on the one side that they sway to. And then I add the little drop shadows, which I think help the bangs look like they pop out a little more. Which is the thing I like the most about them. But that's the Amy drawing for this one. And then, like every other character, you go in and adjust the face. I gave Amy the, cuter mouth and all that, and you can see I kind of push the eyes closer together and adjust the nose, but again, you can kind of do whatever you want with that. I just really highly recommend the eyes and the nose, but the mouth, I went with the cuter one because I thought the Amy me looked pretty cute, you know? Then again, you give it pink skin, and then I think specifically this hair is really good for hair quills. But I think the Amy me turned out pretty good overall. Maybe not as good as the original, but still good. Amy's outfit is actually gotta be one of the most simple, because it is just a red dress, and then I gave it the tan arms, added the white on the collar, and then I forgot to film it, but I added the golden rings on his sleeves like I did with the guys with the white, and then added the little white strip on the bottom of the dress, and I think it turns out pretty simple, but, you know, clean. And that's the Amy Me's, and I still think my original turned out better. I just think the original turned out really cute, and you can see I messed up the eye color and stuff, but again, you can kind of choose that at whatever you want, and use these Me's as reference. But that's how Amy turned out. Then we have the cream Me, which has to be the most complicated Me in this video, which is really funny. Definitely took me the longest to recreate. You can see here I'm still using Amy, but you can use Sonic or Tails or anybody really. It's mainly that muzzle, and again, I probably should have started from scratch, but I had Amy already loaded and I did them back to back. But Sonic would work the same. As you can see, it's mainly like laying out this muzzle thing. But yeah. As you can see here, Cream takes a lot of erasing because not specifically anything on Amy really fits. So it's kind of like with Tails and Sonic, where you gotta really change a lot of stuff around. I mean, I'm trying to make the shape, but I do mess up in this and have to fix it in this process eventually, and you'll definitely see where I messed up, and I'll show you how to fix it. But right now I'm just trying to thin the head down so I can fit the ears in on the side, which is definitely the weirdest part or hardest part with the Cream Me. Like you can see here, I'm trying to get the vague outline of where her little hair is on the back of her head and where her ears will go. I do recommend kind of giving it a little double bump on the top of the ear. I think it makes it look a little nicer. And definitely will take a lot of cleaning up and stuff. There is a reason why she's the most complicated one. The big ears and all the little like layers and details does add a lot of extra time into drawing this one. And here's where you can start doing like a little like fur tufts that are different colors and stuff. And if you notice, I kind of got some stuff messed up that I will definitely see a little later on. Mainly with that, the fur tuft goes all the way to the side on the bottom there. I'm going to make that transition better later. But like I said again, the Cream Me is a really complicated one to do. And I'll try my best to show my mistakes and where to maybe avoid them. And again, it's just a lot of line cleaning and stuff when it comes to all of these. And sorry again if my tutorial giving is not the greatest. It's really my first time trying to do something like this. And I mean, I guess we'll see how it goes and all that. And we'll see if I have to update this later. Because Cream is definitely one I can see where it needs a little more explaining maybe, but yeah. And right here you can see where I started having my main problem that you'll definitely see is he's got like a defined jawline. And I don't notice this until I combine or flip it. and then it becomes really obvious something is off with her. But just like Amy, working on the eyeliner part and tying it in and making it try and look as rounded off in that little screen of the full face as much as possible. You can see here, this is another spot where on some of those you could use that outline tool, but I'm still just kind of fixing it as I go. And Cream has the same thing as Amy, do the eyelash back forth and then kind of clean up the tip with the eraser. Is I think the best way to do it. And Cream has a lot of shading, is one of the things that makes it a little more complicated than the other characters. Like, just because of all the layers that are going on with like the ears folded behind and everything. But I think it's really worth it on Cream to do the extra little shading. And I do recommend just using, again, the little thing, or the little pen, and then just using the paint bucket. I think it's the quickest way. Then here, doing a little bit of lighting. You don't need as much on Cream because a lot of it is kind of behind, but just a little bit here and there will help. But right here is where you'll notice, and where I noticed when drawing this, I made my mistake that she's got like a crimson chin. So you can see here is where I start making adjustments to make it have a little bit of a softer, rounder muzzle, because I don't know how I let that happen, but mistakes were made, and we'll try and fix them now. So hopefully you guys can avoid maybe doing that. I don't know. It is kind of funny though. So you see here, it's just a lot of erasing the muzzle part and extending like the fur parts and the ear part, and a lot of erasing and stuff. And I think it's worth it because he went from here like Crimson Chin to having the slightly softer like muzzle, like I wanted it to be in the first place. Still don't know how I fully did that. It also allows a little eye fur that's orange to actually curve back into her muzzle, which does look a little more accurate and makes it look nicer in my opinion. And here's like where you start erasing this. I was going to mention that after I clean this up, I do this thing where I erase only the bottom corner of Cream's face and replace just that. And that's what I was talking about with the grab lasso tool. Is really useful for doing stuff like this, that you don't gotta like flip the whole side. You can just flip the bottom. And I think it did a lot for her. So then I used the brown eyes, and then I gave her this little mouth because I thought it was pretty cute on her. But again, you can kind of do whatever you want for any of these characters. But then I gave her the just cream skin, and I gave her, I'm pretty sure this hair. Yeah, the ones with the little tufts that kind of match her things on the back of Cream's head. But yeah, that's the Cream Me overall. A little more complicated than the others. Mistakes were made. But I think at the end we kind of fixed it up and got it to look really nice. And you can see here on the outfit, I immediately messed up the recording. But to summarize, she's tan right now, but it's mainly using the square tool print to do her collars, and a little tie diamond on the top I think can help save a lot of time. Like you can see here on the top, it's just 3 squares all tilted like diamonds, and then 1 big square on the back, and that saves a lot of time for that part. Arms are simple like every other character. Adjust the colors as you see fit, but then we'll get into the more complicated stuff, which is doing a little bow and collar, which is kind of just doing that shape. I don't know what to call that. And then I just kind of finish the one side like I have on everything else, and then I'll just take it and flip it, so that it matches. And I forgot to mention on Amy too, with the dresses, I don't gotta make any like leg wear because it doesn't exist when they have the dress on. And that's why I didn't have to do pants for either of them. So yeah, it makes them a little more simple than some of the other characters when you don't gotta do the two pieces. But yeah, again, just simply flip it around, fix and fill in stuff. I got it a little off-centered, but it still looks pretty good. Then their tail is really simple. It's just a half circle with 3 triangles on top. So you could use the shape tools to do that too, but I don't think it's the toughest shape to make. But yeah, just a little touch-ups here and there and a little shading if you want to add it. I think can make it pop a lot. Yeah, that's all the creams. And again, I do think my original is cuter. She has like a softer eye and it kind of goes down a little faster. And I think the new one's a little more aware and all that. But I kind of like cream being cuter. So I do think the first one's good. Again, use both as references you want, but that's cream. And then we have Big, which is the only character in this video that you're gonna need to switch the eyes back to default. Because, you know, Big is the only Sonic character really that has like really different eyes in the main cast. But these will look pretty accurate when you're done. So I'm using Sonic here, but Big is the like most edited or off model of the whole cast in this. So you can really use anybody or just start from scratch. But he's definitely a lot easier than Amy and Cream, so this segment's going to be a little quicker. And you can see here, just slap purple everywhere. At the beginning is all I do here. And then I just kind of round it with the head a little bit, because you got to make room for his ears a little bit. And then Big has that big, you know, hair tufts, and it's a little chubbier looking because of, you know, him being big. So I will say on this one, I definitely didn't get it as chubby. There's other parts of it that are better than my original, but it's not as chubby as my first me, which I think looks better for the big me. But this one still turns out pretty good. It has way better ears on it, I will say that. And you can see on the ears, I just kind of go all the way to the top corner. And again, Big has got to be the simplest character. He's a little oddball though. He's just purple and a lot of darker purple for all his like lining and all that. And then the inside, his ears are kind of tilted down. So that's why they have such a different look than every other one I've done so far. They're not too difficult on Big across the board. Here I just do all the outlining really quick. Then he does have this little line I put in the end to try and match his ear as much as possible. Which, you know, I guess you can do or not do depending on how you kind of want it to look. And I don't really shade inside of his ear either, but I just thought it would look a little too cluttered. Either or I forgot, you know, it's either or. Now I'm Big, I definitely let the lines on his fur tufts be a lot thicker. Because, you know, it kind of fits him. And then Big, instead of having the whites for his eyes, has this little purple fur around where his eyes go. So I just kind of do a half circle tied into his muzzle. And again, just prepping for a little shading like I did on all the other characters. Nothing too difficult on Big across the board. He's definitely the simplest me I did in this whole video. And you grab and flip, just like everybody else so far. And yeah, that's pretty much Big. Again, it's just adjusting the eyes now and giving him the proper mouth and nose placement. But there is some silliness with this Big, is that he looks a lot more thin than my first Big, which you'll see in the comparison at the end of everything. But he still looks good overall. And again, I gave him the chubby face, but you can give Big whatever mouth you really feel like, if you ask me. And then, you know, made his skin purple, and I gave him, like, the short hair, like oh yeah, with the fur out. It's different than Tails is, only by a little bit. But honestly, I don't think it really matters what one you gave to Big. He just has those little spikes off the back of his head is kind of why I gave it to him. Then Big's pants has gotta be even simpler. It's like darker purple with one light purple strip on the top, and you won't even see that one when it's on. His outfit is where it gets really complicated. He has one of the more complicated outfits. You can see here I start with the circle to give him like the belly shape, and then I add the top fur on, kind of like I did with Tails. Copy, flip it, and that's not really the difficult part. You know, you'll see it's that bang belt is going to be the difficult part, because his arms are just doing dark purple lines, and I think it turns out pretty nice. But once you put the gloves on, which is that brownish color, then you got to do the belt, and the belt is a doozy. Yeah, I might kind of clip around a little bit by accident and messed up the footage, but it's mainly taking circles and putting circles on it everywhere. So for the big belt, it's a circle with a little circle in it. And then I put a ton of little circles across the main belt to kind of be the belt holes. Then you got to go and clean out the, you know, the belt buckle. And this is where it kind of gets complicated. I kind of add a diagonal piece down to be the part that hooks into the belt. And then I kind of just add the gold, like, belt lock thing in here too in a sec, and it's a little odd looking because you kind of just got to put it floating in the middle there. And then I kind of add a little brown to be like it's going through one of those belt holes as good as I can. Again, this is definitely one of the most complicated outfit pieces of any of the characters, but I do think it's worth it. And again, shading can always help make things look a little better in general. And I do add the shaded color behind on all the belt holes and just touch up a little bit right there so the belly still looks right. But yeah, Big's outfit is definitely the most complicated one, and I think I did it better this time because I used the circle tool and I tried to do it freehand with my first one. Don't know if I'll replace it yet or not, but yeah. Then his tail is kind of like this weird swoosh with the 3 triangles on top. I kind of messed up the footage a little bit there, but kind of get the idea. Then it stripes down and all that. I don't know, it mostly just covers up his whole back because it's kind of a big tail, you know. Then once again, shading if you want to add it can always help. But Big definitely had one of the most complicated outfit pieces. But that's the entire Big, and as you can see, I kind of like the original one being chubbier, but the new one has better ears. Kind of pick and choose off of those two and follow the tutorial. Also, if you notice, the height thing is vectors, but just know Big is the biggest option on both. And then we have Vector, who is actually the only character to be specifically asked about for a tutorial. which I will apologize as this is a little silly. I'll try and explain myself the best I can. First off, I am using big still, but it doesn't specifically matter to be big. I kind of changed the eyes back to normal, but you need this mouth specifically to do it the way I did. And like I said, you mostly erase big away because Vector is so unique, it kind of got to start original a little bit with him. So I kind of just start with a green blob like you see here and slowly kind of fix it up a little bit. So on doing his whole like snout section, you can see I start with a straight line, a little bump up for the nose, go straight up towards like where your ear would be, then wrap it back around to the bottom, and then I do a bump up on the bottom there to try and do like that, you know, crocodile, like the bottom jaw, at least the one that looks like Vector's. And then his eyes I will, you know, fin it and very like angular. Is kind of how I go, and then I just layer it on top of itself, as you see here. And I start his head with just a regular, you know, round off kind of thing. And then I go and add a little more angle to his like eyebrow thing going on here. Then it's a little bit of cleanup everywhere, you know, just in general, and then picking up the lines a little bit. Making them a little more bold, I guess I should say. Then it's just, you know, making all the lines a little more bold, a little more noticeable, and fixing like the position of his nose and adding this little line in it. I forgot to mention, Vector is one of the only characters you don't use the nose like everybody else in this video. Espio is the other one. Then again, adding more angle into things, and then when I start doing his headphones, I kind of do this cube, and then a little cube on top of the cube is kind of how I set it up. And again, just a lot of little touch-ups and sharpening things. Again, I'm sorry if this isn't the most helpful. I'm trying my best. Vector is just such a unique looking character, and again, grab and flip like this. And overall, then I kind of go around one more time and add even more angular look to everything, and picking up some lines on the headset and stuff. Just doing some final touch-ups, you know. And then you can see here, I make everything on his like snout a little more sharp, or his jaw line, and I'll have to flip it again one more time after all this to get it all to look accurate on both sides. And I start adding in the shading, which is way less on Vector because it's just like no shading part, it's only really lighting. And then, like I said before, we flip it one more time now that has all the shading, and this is where the complicated part of Vector comes in that makes him a little more unique than the others. It's specifically why you have to use this mouth and stuff. So I kind of go back here quick to try and position his eyes, but mainly position his mouth in a spot where I want to start drawing from, you know? Even though I'm pretty sure I already had it in place, but then you take black and you kind of try and follow the mouth, and you go down and up just like I did here. I kind of do this zigzag to give him like that crocodile mouth, but still have him be able to move his mouth, if not just the little front part. I think it helps a lot for his like expressiveness, but it lets him keep that cool like crocodile mouth. Then again, you can see here I sharpen it up a lot to make it look as nice as possible. And then you just flip it. I know it might be a little cartoony looking, but that's how I did it. And then I gave him the same kind of like hair as, yeah, I gave him the tails hair, and then I just made him green across the board. And that's how I did the vector face. A little simple and a little complicated in ways, but I think this one turned out pretty close to my original. Then on his feet, it's a little more complicated than others, and I kind of like mess up some stuff on my redraw, and I'll point that out. It's definitely more complicated than Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails and stuff. I do this double triangle up in the corner, and I do the black on the bottom for his shoes. We can see here I made the triangle yellow. Is supposed to be orange. I kind of just had a brain for it there. That was my bad. Don't do that. Make it orange. It's supposed to be the back spike on his tail, because I made his tail really tiny. Because there's no way of doing it in this. I think that will look good. Then on the shoes, you see I did just white squares from the shape box and put it on the front. And that's how you make Vector's pants. Then his body's also on the little more complicated side. As you can see, this is the original, and then I'll show you how I recreate it. First, using a lot of the shape tool, you put his like a patch on the middle for like his bottom skin, and make it a slightly, lighter color. There's like 3 layers to it. There's a darker one for the outlining, a lighter one, and I just put the little lines in it for like the kind of armored look it has. Just kind of count the squares and do it as good as you can is kind of what I do. And then his lighter skinned arms, and then I put the black. Then this is a little more complicated. You do the little gold stripe, and then you do this yellow box, and I keep making it a little thicker until it covers that golden line. Then I add the line going in one way to be like the belt buckle thing he has on it. And I just copy paste that to both sides because it's really complicated. And here you see I do this triangle, upside down triangle. Then you clean out the middle and put a lighter shade of orange in it. Then I just use that and keep printing it and making it smaller as I go down on this one. And I think it turns out pretty well. His body's a little more complicated than some characters, but overall, I don't think it's too bad. And that is Vector in the Vector. In this one, I think I got one of the closest. And again, thank you so much for the Vector fan who asked specifically for Vector. It was really cool of you to ask. But yeah, that's Vector. I think he's the one I got one of the most accurate. And still like how the new one turned out in the old one. And I hope this helps you out a lot. That's Vector. Then we got Espio, which I use Knuckles as a base, but again, doesn't it specifically matter who you use, just don't use like Vector or Big. But he is also like Vector, where he's one of the ones that does not need the nose. I forgot to mention that at the beginning of Vectors, but yeah. Espio is a little interesting because kind of like Knuckles and stuff, he's got the sharp eyes, so I guess if you have Knuckles it wouldn't be hurt, to use him. But then he has like a more simple head shape than some of the others. I kind of just go triangle up and triangle slightly down, on the sides. It's a little weird of a perspective to get, but I kind of just adjust it over time until it looks about right. Again, the eraser will be your friend. And then, like you saw there, I had a bit of a glitch in the recording, but just since Espio has a bit of black there, I used that, and then the dark purple. kind of combine them. I think it turns out pretty nice. And then he has that kind of eyebrow or eyelid thing going on there, which is, kind of like Sonic or Knuckles. Then it's just outlining everything. Again, Espio is a more simple one. It's when you get to his horn, it can be a little weird. And then, like the other characters, just a little shading here and there, depending if you want to put it on or not. I kind of recommend right behind like the muzzle area, and then usually right on top of the eyebrow thing, and like the top of the head is where I add lighting kind of thing. That's on average with these characters, which is funny when I'm only talking about that on the second to last one. My bad. And here's what I was talking about with the horn. I kind of do this, if you saw the original, just directly facing forward. I kind of think it's the best possible way to do it. But then in this one, I make it too thin, so then I would keep the bottom a little wider than I did initially. I widen mine out a little bit after I duplicate and flip. And here's what I meant by the horn is also a little thin, if you see it right now. So I kind of go in there and I'll fix all of this little stuff with how it tied together, making the horn a little bigger on the bottom. And then just flip it around so both sides are accurate. First off, go remove the nose if you didn't, like I didn't. And then, proper eye color and eye placement. And then, like Knuckles, I kind of kept the straight face. Then for Espio, I just let him keep the same as Vector for this one and just turned his skin and hair purple. But yeah, nothing too complicated for Espio, but I think he turned out pretty well. He might be a little better than my original, but still same idea. Now, Espio's outfits are a little more complicated. I didn't do this originally, but I would have, if I was you, just use the heart piece and fill it in a little bit at the top, and you kind of get Espio's chest area really well. Then here you gotta do this specific layout to kind of give his ninja glove look. It's a little weird, because then it will appear on the top, and you see here the pencil, I only use the straight one, and then I space it like 2, go over, 2, go over. And this is to give him like his cool ninja gloves thing, and then I put it in the middle to make the bigger one. It's a little weird, and my footage gets a little messed up here, but on the bottom for all those little gold things, I just kind of, slap them on with the little circle tool as small as possible. And I might have messed up the placements a little bit on some of them. I would recommend maybe not putting them right at the edge, because then they'll double up, but I make that same mistake twice on the pants and on this. Then I add little lines for like the ninja wrap stuff, and copy paste that, because I don't recommend trying to draw that twice. Then his back spikes are identical to Vector's the way I did them. Triangle, triangle, flip, fill it in with a darker purple, and then multiply that by 3 and getting smaller every time. And then with his tail, I kind of did the footage got messed up, but it's a line into a swirl, and then I kind of just hook another line into it and cleaned it up to give him his like little swirl tail. Might not be fully accurate, but I think it looks nice enough for, you know, this outfit. Then again, his pants are more complicated, like how Vector's was. Again, you kind of do what I did with the gloves with the little golden ribbons and stuff. You see here, I'm erasing the original to redraw it, and I messed up the footage and it jumped. I'll do these little starting spots so that all the lines tie in together for the ninja rap stuff going on. I do remember to use the smaller one eventually, but it'll help it like all connect together if you put those starter lines on. Then the little golden circles that you use the circle tool for, you just go across the bottom. Again, I messed up by putting them right on the sides, which make them double up really close. You're supposed to put a half circle on the side, but I messed that up a long while ago and didn't realize, so yeah. And then copy paste like everything else, just for the ease of it. But yeah, outfit overall, a little more complicated, but pretty cool. As you can see, they're a little different. The new one's a little more vibrant and wide awake, and the old one has a little bit more of a 10-mile stare, but in the new one, it's a little more jagged, if you like that. I like how both of them turned out, and I hope this helps you out with making a Espio me. So, Charmy's a really interesting one, because I wouldn't say he's super difficult, but he's definitely odd because of how Charmy looks as a character. With his helmet and all. And, you know, it kind of makes him a little easier in a way, which is kind of weird. Mind you, Charmy just has like the one big white eye under his helmet. And then I kind of just do this little swoop. And then that's supposed to look like it ties back in behind his head. If that makes sense with those two lines for the helmet. I'll clean it up a little later. And again, you saw there, I lost footage of it, but then I kind of draw the goggles roughly on there. And when we start adding color, I think it will help show the vision a little bit, you know? And here's where we start filling in the helmet to, you know, sort of start giving that Charmy look to it. And it's a lot of cleanup because I definitely drew this a little messy. And then just adding a couple extra lines and touching up lines on the outside is probably going to help out with how messy I definitely made this. And then to give the perspective is I did that kind of circle tilt there on the top of the goggle. Kind of make it look a little more 3D-y, if that makes sense. And then you add the darker lines on the rim of the helmet. That will help it out quite a bit to look a little nicer. And then I use the circle tool to make the little holes for his antennas. And then I always start with yellow, and then I'll just draw it, and then kind of fill in the black afterwards. And I'll kind of do it in a messy way with the black, where I go up and down so it kind of looks like the fuzziness of it. I think it turns out quite nice for how the Charmy looks. And then like every other character so far, shading. Shading and lighting can help it pop, you know, like I've said before. And same thing, use the smallest marker and go from point to point and use the paint bucket. And then I did it even on his eye here because of the helmet being on, and I think it helps with the look a lot. Again, just lighting across the board, it does make it a little more complicated, but I really think it's worth it. But again, I don't think you need it if you don't want it. If you've been trying to follow along with this mess of a tutorial. Then the copy flip. And Charmy, not too difficult. I will have to go in and fix the little rim right in the center where the helmet meets to make it look a little better though. But yeah, overall, Charmy not too difficult. Again, you don't really gotta change the eyes on Charmy depending on who you used or not, but you know, the mouth you want, right eye color, and giving him a smooth hair to match his helmet kind of helps, I think, and just making it black on black. I like giving him the little gremlin mouth because I think it fits him a lot. But yeah, this one I think makes it look like a helmet at least a little. Kind of matches is all I'm saying. So that's the one I would go for. Then Charmy's pants are actually kind of simple. It's just black, then gray on the bottom, and then I did the yellow stripes on top to tie it in with the shirt later. It's nothing too difficult. It's a little more complicated than some of the other guys' pants though. Now the real one that's a pain is going to be his jacket. His body is like one of the most complicated, of course, you know. So I start with the orange shirt, then I put black on top and bottom of the arms to give him his little sleeves he has. And then I cut off the bottom of the jacket so that you can show off his yellow stripes in the bottom half of his, like, you know, the B, where his sting is and everything. The real difficult part about the Charmy is doing his whole jacket setup. So now I do this golden stripe down, and then I take the smallest one and I start doing the zipper, which is just a line, a line, a line. Then I would take the lasso tool, and then I'd grab it and just replace it over and over and over until it makes like that zipper look. And then you're gonna have to do his like big zipper piece, and I kind of just do this shape, like a triangle without the sharp top. And then you gotta do his collar, which I did the same thing as I did with cream. I did the square and I tilted it, and just slap that on both sides. And then you can try and tie it in on the back with like looking at it correctly with a circle and drawing it. It's a little complicated, but yeah. And also shadows, I should mention shadows. Always will make it pop. And outlines, never forget outlines. Sorry, it's been a couple characters, maybe I'm forgetting things. So yeah, flip it and then just clean up the flip after that one because the zipper was never drawn to be even. And like I said here, I do the back collar, which can be cleaned up in any way you want. Just kind of tied in close is all I would say. And then his a little bee wings here. Alright, not super difficult. Of course I lost the footage of the initial drawing. It's just like a circle into like two flats into a squared off end with a line in the middle. Then I add a little drop shadow and I just flip it. Like I've mentioned before, flipping it saves a lot of time in this whole process. And it's funny because on the original Charmy in the video, I didn't even have the wings fully on, which was funny. Then for the stinger, I just do a dark circle, then a slightly lighter color of gray in that circle to do like his stinger. Now for the most difficult part. I lost a lot of footage on this, but trying to do his little bee badge. I couldn't get it fully to match. I got it as close as I could. I'm not even sure if I recommend trying it. Right here I put yellow lines on it, but I lost all that footage, which sucks. But yeah, this is how it kind of turned out. Tried to make it as close as possible, but you could probably just draw any kind of little dopey bee, and I think it'd kind of give the same effect. But yeah, that's the bee badge in Charmy's outfit. The bee badge definitely helped it become one of the more complicated ones. But overall, I think it turned out well enough to make it look like Charmy, you know? And that's Charmy and Charmy, and again, I gotta give it to my original. He looks a little more gremlin status, which I guess I couldn't replicate fully, but I still think the new one turned out okay. Again, use both as a reference if you want or not. I hope the tutorial helped in some way. But yeah, that's Charmy. So yeah, there's the end of all the tutorials for these 9 characters, and first off, if you actually somehow watched that whole entire thing through, thank you so much, and you're kind of a legend for that one. And if you just skip through and went to the characters you want, I still think that's cool. That's how I recommend you would watch it. But thank you guys so much for watching in general. And thank you guys in general for all the support on these Tomodachi Life videos recently and stuff. And asking for tutorials and stuff. I just thought it was really cool. Thank you guys so much for that. But yeah, moving forward with this tutorial series for Tomodachi Life, I'm probably going to be, like I said, doing 2 or 1 team per video. Just to make it so it's not as daunting of a task to do. And that's why I apologize for this video if the tutorials aren't the greatest. I've never really done them before. I tried my best, and maybe I could always make updated ones when I learn better for the individual teams to be more specific or get better stuff to film it better. But this video kind of turned into what it is, and I surely hope it at least can help you guys make your own versions of these Miis, because this game's a lot of fun and the Sonic cast is great. And I'm just happy to see people be interested in the Miis I made and all that. And it's really cool, you guys. Thank you so much for all that. Again, with all the support and stuff on the videos and the subscribers gained from them, thank you again. It's really cool when something that you make people like it and all that. And thank you so much for everybody that was asking for tutorials and all that. Thought it was really cool. And it might be scuffed and everything, and I know I could probably do the tutorials better, and again, I'm sorry if it doesn't help. I hope I, could help at least a little explain how I did them, or at least the drawings could maybe help you, but yeah. Overall, this was a bit of an endeavor of a video, and I surely hope that some of you get something out of it. And if anything, it kind of shows off my process for making these Miis, and I'm going to keep making them and keep doing Tomodachi Life content along with Sonic content and other content in general. But the Mobius Island probably isn't going to be going anywhere anytime soon, and I'm excited to add more Miis, and I'll probably use the hindsight to record Miis as I make them a little more, so you could get like the exact ones instead of me trying to recreate them, which I am sorry about, and I tried to get them as close as possible. And I know it's a little hard to try and ask people just to draw because it's not as easy, but it's the only way I know how to do them. Maybe I could find out some ways with the stamps and the shapes and everything, make tutorials for that, but maybe we'll see one day. I don't know when the next part of the tutorial series will be coming out, because I'm definitely going to take a little break to focus on other content for a second, but I'll probably come back to it in a week or so, a week or 2 or 3 with Team Dark and see how that goes. But yeah, this has been a very long, very big video of a making Sonic the Hedgehog Miis in Tomodachi Life tutorial for Team Sonic, Team Rose, and Team Chaotix. And oh boy, I surely hope this helped some of you guys out. And thank you again so much for all this cool and positive stuff you guys have done with this channel recently with all this Tomodachi Life stuff. It means the world to me. Thank you. But yeah, I'm probably gonna, go to sleep or something. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys later, and God bless.